sure at one point or another you've come across something like this, praising great Western architecture in comparison to the backwards primitive mud huts of Africa. And there's generally two responses to this. One being, no, look at that, there's so many skyscrapers. Or two, there's so many structures like this, the ruins of Great Zimbabwe. Which, don't get me wrong, are both completely true. Like, in spite of what the West deems primitive, can we stop ignoring how cool this is? Now first, it goes without saying that Africa is a pretty big place. So please don't take what I say as a representation of the entire continent rather than just a few examples. This is from Burkina Faso, and really depending on where you go, you might see a more round structure. These cylindrical dwellings are cool for a few many reasons. One is that they're easier to build, and two is that they're wind resistant. They're not getting blown away. It's also notable that with the same perimeter, a circle will always have a larger area than a square. Less material for a bigger home. A round house also has dozens of interconnected points, making it less vulnerable for earthquakes. Sound waves will also wrap around the house, not only making it soundproof from the outside, but also the inside. But wait, there's more. This is from the Muslim people in Cameroon. They are circular, they are domed, and there's a hole at the top, all creating natural cooling. If it rains, you just cover the top and it's easy to climb because look at these beautiful patterns. And the patterns also help with rain drainage. And speaking of natural cooling systems, mud is incredible. It has high thermal mass, so basically it will absorb and store heat during the day, keeping the interior cool. And then at night, where it's a bit colder, it will release the heat, keeping the house warm. Unlike something like timber that really exaggerates our need for air conditioning. This one's more obvious, but using earth is more sustainable in comparison to concrete. Often referred to as one of the most destructive materials on earth. In an age of climate crisis, you're eventually going to be forced into looking at people that saw the environment as their friend and ally rather than something to conquer. This is what is known as architecture without architect. Architecture where locals have built such a superior understanding of buildings that nobody has to live without a home. Homes being relatively easy to build and take down means that moving is a lot easier. And so if an area no longer becomes desirable, whether that be politics or environment, they will take their houses and leave. Not to mention movable architecture like this from Guinea. But we'll take the roofs and use it as a boat. You're telling me that's not the coolest thing? The West has long valued architecture for being monumental and permanent. Because structures like this are sustainable and made of earth, they are seen as less worthy. And also when colonizers stole a bunch of art, they couldn't really move the homes, so they stole parts of the houses, which made it really difficult to understand. If you want to sit here and try to justify colonialism under the idea that Africa was somehow less civilized, and you decide to go for their art and architecture, I am telling you that will always be a marker of your ignorance rather than their inferiority. And God knows you will lose that argument every single time.